The Warriors defeat, barely, edge the Grizzlies 121-116. It was a tough game. It was a hard-fought game. It wasn't always a pretty game, but you take the victory. 121-116 in this play-in game. The Grizzlies started off well. I mean, they went on an 11-2 run to begin the game, but then the Warriors stormed back and outscored the Grizzlies 31-25, then 36-30 in the second quarter, though the Grizzlies played much better and got it closer. But what made this a game was the third quarter, 36-27 Grizzlies, and then the Warriors outscored the Grizzlies by 2 in the fourth quarter. There were some controversial plays late in the game. ESPN NBA, as a headline, said that there were 4 errors made late in the Grizzlies-Warriors game. None of them actually, if you put them all together, would change the outcome of the game. But that is troubling, that the officiating was that poor at the end of the game. And the fact that the league doesn't look at them just because the teams didn't have challenges, the league should look at these plays. And if it's under 2 minutes of the playoff game, why aren't they just automatically looking at these? They should. But the big-time players stepped up. And one thing I want to say about the Warriors is good team defense. A lack of the silly turnovers. The Warriors have always been a team with sloppy, careless turnovers. That was before Durant, with Durant, after Durant. Curry only had 1 turnover, 10 as a team. Grizzlies, on the other hand, had 19 turnovers. Free throw disparity, Warriors shot 34, and the Grizzlies had 23. Fouls, Warriors committed 23, Grizzlies committed 26. So not too far off there. You had some of the best players. I mean, the 2 best players, respectively, were playing hurt. Curry, for him, his shooting hand is all taped up. And then Ja Morant's ankle injury that he ended up leaving, and then he returned and played through. And by the end of the game, he pretty much looked like himself. But the big boys on both teams stepped up. Butler and Curry accounted for 75 out of the 121 points by the Warriors. It's about 62% of their points. They didn't get much from anyone else. Curry, 9 of 22, 6 of 13 from 3, 13 of 13 free throws, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, again, 1 turnover. For me, that's really big. Jimmy Butler, an efficient 12 of 20, 2 of 4 from 3, that the Grizzlies gave him space early to shoot threes, and he picked his spots, and he picked them wisely. 12 of 18 from the free throw line. I mean, if he just made a few more of his free throws, this wouldn't have been as close of a game. But his commitment to driving into the basket, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. Draymond, you can never measure him by just the regular main stats that everyone's looking at. 31 minutes, 1 of 5 from the field shooting. 1 of 5, 0 for 3 from 3. Shot 2 free throws, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals. He did foul out, and it was an incredibly silly foul for him on Desmond Bane. That should not have happened. That was, you talk about him being a high IQ player, which he is all the time. He is a very high IQ player. That's what I always hear all the time, I should say. Yet he will make some very stupid fouls. I mean, there's some fouls that I'm just like, Draymond, you're too valuable to be taking a foul like that, and you should be too intelligent of a basketball player to make or commit, a dumb foul early in the game. You're a thin team. You need to be there at the end. But with all that said, he was a plus 12 a plus 12, which he was tied for Quinton Post for a game high on either team. But points were hard to come by for the Warriors. Moody, I feel Moody had a good game. He had 9 points. Podziemski, though, has been so hot, 3 points. Only 3 points from him. 1 of 7 from the field. Looney only played 10 minutes, 2 points, and 1 rebound. Santos, a hard played 6 minutes. Post was big, 4 of 5, 3 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, also again plus 12. Buddy Hield, this is the guy I have a problem with playing as much as he does. Buddy Hield, 12 minutes, 1 of 4, 0 for 3 from 3, 2 points. But he was a plus 7, right? That's what matters, okay. But my eyes tell me something different. But Gary Payton in post, he was 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3-point range. He had that block. He had a couple rebounds, assists, a steal. Again, doesn't tell the whole picture. He was, again, guarding Ja Morant a lot in this game. He's so valuable to this team. But here's the thing that we've all been talking about. Where was Kuminga? The team's third leading scorer from the regular season could not find the court. And this has just gotten ridiculous. Some people were saying, when Larry Krueger and Cyrus and that group were having their discussion, that everyone was whining about, why did Kuminga not play? Why not Kuminga play? And, they're talking about Steve Kerr's keeping Michael Jordan on the bench. No, but he's the team's third leading scorer, and he's not playing. That's the problem. He's the team's third leading scorer, and he can't find any playing time. That's the problem. And that's what I don't get. That's what a lot of people don't get about this, is what's the deal? And you need offense, and you're not getting it from hardly anyone, really, except for Curry and Butler. You need that. You're not getting it, and you need some youth. You need athleticism. No, he's not the smartest player on the court, but he offers you some easy points. And I think it's worth the trade-off for the mistakes he makes. Can't he give you more than Buddy Hield at this point? I think so. It was very disappointing. And I'm also sitting there saying, well, what about Trayce Jackson-Davis? I think he could have given you a few minutes with Zach Edey out there, being the mountain that he is, and the problem that he presents, a rare problem in today's NBA. You just don't see too many players that big. And let's look at the Grizzlies here. So the coaching, though, the thing about Steve Kerr, before we get to the Grizzlies, great performance by Butler and Curry, and I've heard so much about Playoff Jimmy, and Playoff Jimmy showed up. Not that I don't remember it from the Heat days, but I got to the point where I'm like, I've heard enough about Playoff Jimmy Butler. Well, he got it done. But here's the thing about Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is great at managing players. He's always been a winner. He'll always be a winner, a champion as a player, as a coach. But he's not always a great X's and O's guy, and he's not always great with picking lineups. I agree with that. It's been said so much here yesterday and today, and just with this, everything that's gone on with Kuminga. That's one thing that I don't care for when it comes to Steve Kerr. He is very stubborn, and I can say that because I'm a very stubborn person. He's stubborn about this. And sometimes it's certainly to the Warriors' hurt. And this has been one of those cases. When you look at the Grizzlies, you know, I don't like Ja Morant for a lot of reasons, but last night was one of his greater efforts. Considering the ankle injury, he still scored 22 points. Surprisingly, only 3 assists. He had 5 turnovers, though. This was not his cleanest game. Desmond Bane, 5 of 8 from 3. He could have had more. He had a couple that just popped out that you thought that were down. 6 rebounds. He's the one that brought the Grizzlies back in. Second and third quarter, Scottie Pippen Jr., he played hard. Jaren Jackson, you know, for me, he makes his threes, but there are a lot of wide open threes, and because he's taller, usually much taller than whoever's defending him. But he only made 2 baskets that weren't threes. 6 of 15, 4 of 9 from 3, only 6 rebounds. I didn't like his game. I really didn't like Jackson's game. And he's playing more the power forward position. Play more like a power forward. I mean, too many jump shots instead of going into the paint and finishing from him. You know who's the player that drives me more crazy than almost anyone in the NBA? It's Michael Porter Jr. He is the softest 6'10" guy I can think of who should be just a double-double machine because he just wants to be a fly-by-3 shooter. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to be a 6'10" guy who shoots threes. And I can't stand it. I think he is one of the issues with the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets, in many ways, it comes down to Jamal Murray and Porter. How good are they going to be? Because at least offensively, you're going to get everything from Jokic. What are you going to get out of those two? They can be, when those two are clicking, and especially when Murray is really good and Jokic is really good offensively, they are extremely hard for anyone to beat. I don't care who you are. But that's my pet peeve about these 6'10", 6'11" guys, 7 feet, who just want to be firing threes. And when they have a clear height advantage over their defender, way too much of that from Jackson. But Zach Edey's interesting. He really had some high points and he had some low points as a rookie. Because of his size, he was only 4 of 11. He had 17 rebounds, 14 points, and somehow he didn't foul out. Not exactly sure how he didn't foul out of this, but he had, he was a problem for the Warriors, though, because they just didn't have anyone. Post really couldn't play with him because he's just physically bigger. And then Looney, as much as I love Looney being, he's 6'9" with a 7+ wingspan, but you're telling a 6'9" guy to say, oh, I'm going to take care of you, and you're 7'3", 7'4" out there. That's a big ask to out-rebound him. And it's not just like he's a thin guy that's that tall. He's filled out. He's big. And the size, the other criticism of Steve Kerr, though, is that he almost plays as small as possible. And I love the Warriors over the years, I love the teams, but can we get a little more height? Would it kill you to get a little more height out there? When you look at this ultra small lineup where, it's Curry, Podziemski, Moody, and then really you have Jimmy Butler. He's tough. He's strong, but 6'7" playing power forward. He's not Dennis Rodman, okay? Jimmy Butler isn't Dennis Rodman getting double-digit rebounds every game. And then Draymond Green, who, you can't have a 6'7" power forward and a 6'6" center. You can't have those at the same time and you win a championship. It worked in some ways, this smaller lineup, when they faced the Celtics. And you just look at some of the teams they played. You know, when the Warriors had the run in 22, they went up against the Nuggets. Well, it was just Jokic. There was no Murray and there was no Porter, and I was just criticizing those guys. But it was really just Jokic and a lot of guys. So he wasn't so much of a problem. But he would have been if he had more support. Then you went up against a small team, meaning the talent was, let's just say, the backcourt, not the front court. It was Luka and Brunson against the Mavericks. So they were able to take advantage of that with their depth. And then lastly, you go in the finals and you face the Celtics, who didn't have a 7-foot center. Right? You didn't have to deal with that. And they're very fortunate they didn't have to deal with that against the Celtics. So it was just sort of like, it was a very small ball finals, and it played right into the Warriors' hands. If they played the Celtics with Porzingis, they would have had some problems. And you're looking at the big picture here at the Warriors and others have said this, and I appreciate it, and I agree with them, that the Warriors can't play this small and expect to do it and go all the way and go through the West and go through the East. No way. Not this time around. It's not like you have Durant. You don't have Durant's size, even though Durant in no ways was a center, but at least you had his height for rebounding and finishing. You got nothing like that, and you look at these teams in the West with the Thunder, the Rockets, the Nuggets, and even the Clippers. Zubats was a big problem for them. You're gonna beat those teams being small, really small as small can be, and not use Trayce Jackson-Davis, use Looney sparingly, and then not use Kuminga. And how, if you're not going to use Kuminga, then why didn't you trade him? Why didn't you trade him and get another asset? Get someone with, get a power forward at least. I mean, forget about center. Just give me like a legitimate 6'9", 6'10" power forward for the Warriors. Because again, I like Post, but Post is not a traditional center. What's his best skill? He's a 7-footer who shoots three, which is great. The Warriors need that. But they still need someone inside with some bulk who can, push some of their weight around on the opponents. And they continue to lack that. But perhaps the most frustrating thing is how they've given up on Trayce Jackson-Davis, too. You can't even manage to get him some time out there when he can at least offer you some size. I don't know. I don't know about some of these things with the Warriors. They get away with it barely against the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies had some injuries. The Grizzlies were a little thinner. The Warriors were thinner by choice in this one. But yeah, it was very intense play in game because these teams' history. They don't like each other. You had banged up players. You had, though, with Butler, a toughness. Though he's not the power forward, though he's not center, he brings a toughness that the Warriors, have lacked. And I think it's great when you have players on your team who haven't been there, who are extremely driven. Like, take it with the Warriors when they won and then they lost the second finals to the Cavs. I mean, you're very motivated to get back. And the great thing about that Warriors run was, although they won in 14-15 and they came back the next year saying, we still feel like we have something to prove. That is so rare in sports. And then they end up winning the 73 games, setting the record. But then they fall. But then you bring someone in like Durant, who people believe couldn't win the big one. And he hadn't won before, of course. he's very motivated along with them because it's always different. If you've never done it, you have more fire. You will have more fire, or at least you hope you would, and more drive than guys who have already been to the mountaintop who want to get back. I mean, unless you're like Michael Jordan, someone so rare as that, who always had something to prove, always had a chip on the shoulder. But that's what you have with Butler on a team like this, though I don't think the Warriors, this version of Warriors, are going to get very far. I'm just, like so many, frustrated with some of the Steve Kerr decisions. I mean, that's one of the things, I greatly respect Steve Kerr, and if I was to rank the all-time Bay Area coaches, in the history of Bay Area sports of the major teams, he'd have a very high place, but he wouldn't be at the top because some things like this. Of course, he had, I would say, of all of these franchises, he had the most loaded teams. Maybe you could argue a little bit about the 89 49ers, the 94 49ers, but consecutively, let's say for about 3 years, the Durant years, I'm not even talking about pre-Durant, they were the most, for let's just say 4 or 5 years, they were, without doubt, the most talented team in the NBA. And they should have won 3 out of 5. But I would not put him, he's behind. He's not at the top of the list. You clearly have other great coaches, managers that are ahead of him, even though he's won 4. Right? He's won the most he's won more than all the other managers and coaches of the 3 major sports in the Bay Area. But yeah, who played the best? The 3 best players in this game were Curry, Butler, and Bane. Well, the Warriors are going to need a lot more going forward. The good news is they have 4 days off. 4 days to get some rest in to get prepared, let their bodies, their old bodies, recover before you're going to face a very physical series against the Rockets. And it's interesting because the Rockets are young, the Rockets are inexperienced, but the Rockets are good, and the Rockets just beat the Warriors. But people overreact too much to just one game. The Warriors were coming off all these big wins against the Grizzlies, the Lakers, and the Nuggets. They were due for a letdown game. Those were huge wins, and against teams they struggled so much, like the Lakers and the Nuggets against. And then, they finished the Nuggets off on a Friday, and then it's a Sunday, and they're facing the Rockets. So they have recent film on each other. There's really no secrets. It's just, will the Warriors use their whole roster? Will they take advantage of everyone? And I don't think they are going to win that series playing small as possible. Forget about as soon as possible. How about ASAP is as small as possible. That's the Warriors. And then you look ahead at some of these other series. The West is loaded. It's stacked. 1 through 8 is very good. Look at the East. The Hawks and the Magic. The quality of play was so poor in comparison to the Warriors and the Grizzlies. And I'll also say the broadcast quality. What a difference between what you see with TNT and ESPN, ABC. All ESPN has going for him is Mike Breen. That's it. I think TNT is just so superior when it comes to the whole panel, pregame, postgame, the depth of their play-by-play guys when you can throw out Kevin, and then you have Brian Anderson, and then Ian Eagle. I mean, and Allie's great too. Allie's very good. She is the LaForce. Or I call her Allie the Force. And just such a clean presentation all the way around. And ESPN just pumping you with so many ads, so many commercials. You're at the breaking point sometimes with them. But man, I got to criticize really quick though. That end of the game, and I wasn't watching every second of it, but Trae Young for the Hawks. I mean, you want to talk about bad leadership? That is bad leadership. Again, I'm not usually going to defend Ja Morant, but you see Ja Morant, I mean, both of them had a game to go. It wasn't you were just eliminated. You know, the Hawks have another game they're going to play Friday, but talk about a lack of leadership. And then what you see with Ja Morant with that bad ankle, he could have just said, forget it. You know, we're not through. We're going to get another chance. He went out there and attempted to give it his all. They didn't pull it off, but I have a lot more respect for his performance than what I was seeing out of Trae Young. And Trae Young, good grief, man, he can get a lot of points in the box score, but how much of it is free throws? I mean, the same thing you always have to criticize James Harden. I respect James Harden as an all-time great scorer. He has his place. He's a Hall of Famer. He's been an MVP. But it doesn't mean I have to like watching him play the game. I can't stand watching James Harden play the game. He's got the ball in his hand the entire time. Dribble. Yeah, he gets triple doubles because he always has the ball. I won't take away from him. He's a great scorer. I won't take away from him that he is a brilliant passer. But the free throws, and you know in the playoffs you're going to get less free throws, and they're going to let teams play more defense. It's just like the NFL. Same thing in the NFL. They let teams quietly play more defense. And James Harden starts getting less of those cheap calls that he gets in the regular season, and suddenly his teams aren't so good in the playoffs. So I've been critical of James Harden over the years. I can't stand watching him play. But if I'm going to be fair towards James Harden, he probably would have made, if it wasn't for the Warriors, this is an interesting question. How many finals would James Harden would have won? I think he would have won at least one. His teams, I think, would have a split with the Cavs. But I'll be interested to see how Kawhi does and how Harden does in these playoffs, and whether Jokic will get any help from Murray or Porter or not. Can the Thunder, with that great record, can that translate to the playoffs? And with the Lakers, will their lack of size hurt them? Imagine if they eventually go up against the Nuggets, and they look good against the Nuggets in the regular season, but will the lack of size hurt them against the Thunder or the Nuggets? We'll have to see. I mean, I'm fascinated to see this series between the Timberwolves and Lakers, because will Rudy Gobert be rendered useless because the Lakers are going to go small ball? That's a very interesting series. I mean, all the series really in the West are good and intriguing in their own way. In the East, it's just clearly not as deep. I'll be disappointed if the conference finals is not the Cavs and the Celtics. Can the Celtics repeat? Can they at least get to the finals 2 years in a row? They're going to have a much more difficult time this year than they did last year. I mean, who are the real serious contenders in the East versus the West? I mean, the West, Yeah, I could see a number of teams making the finals. Thunder could. They have the talent to do it. The Rockets, I don't see it. I think it's the Thunder. It's the Nuggets, if they can somehow put it together. But it's just been bad. I think it's asking a lot. As talented as they are, as great as Jokic is, to overcome this and the coaching changes, and things have just been really off. But it's possible. The Lakers, I'm hesitant with the Clippers. I don't think so with the Wolves. The Clippers, again, James Harden, but you have Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard knows how to win. Okay, there's no question about that, but can he stay healthy? And will he balance out James Harden? I will see. I think they have a shot. The Warriors, I find it hard to believe. I'm not counting them out as much as I'm rooting for the Warriors. I'm not counting the Warriors out. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard for the Warriors. So I think it's really 4 teams. And then the East, Celtics, Cavs. Yeah, I just think it's between the Celtics and the Cavs. The Knicks are good. They're not quite good enough. The Pistons, I think, would be a year away. Though they're going in the right direction. They really are going in the right direction. So great time if you're a basketball fan. And I really just don't take anyone seriously that's playing in the games tonight. These play-in teams, I don't. So we'll have a full weekend of games.